At my sister-in-law's wedding, she made me and my 6-year-old son clean the tables, but...
Hello everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
Lucy pulled her old coat tighter around her as the early spring chill blew through the small window of the third-floor apartment she rented in Queens. Inside, Leo was sitting and drawing with colored pencils, his small legs swinging from a wobbly wooden chair. "What are you drawing, Leo?" Lucy asked, her voice gentle but tired. "I'm drawing you and me eating ice cream on the beach. You're wearing a blue dress, and your hair is blowing in the wind," Leo replied, his eyes shining. "But you don't have any wrinkles like now, okay?" Lucy laughed, though something inside her felt like it had been scratched raw. Her son's little dreams were what kept her going every day. Working freelance jobs, delivery runs in the morning, online translation in the afternoon, and typing documents for hire at night barely brought in enough to survive. But it was enough to keep the two of them from going hungry. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Lucy opened it to find Mrs. Rose, the landlady, holding a white envelope. "Mail for you." "The mailman left it downstairs. I brought it up for convenience," Mrs. Rose said. "Thank you, Mrs. Rose," Lucy replied, nodding slightly. Mrs. Rose squinted into the room, then shook her head slightly. "Just a reminder, this month's electric bill, I'll need it before the 10th. Don't let it be late like last month." "I'll manage." "Thank you," Lucy said, trying to smile as she closed the door. She tore open the envelope. A thick, gold-trimmed card fell straight onto the worn carpet. A fancy wedding invitation. When she read the names of the senders, Lucy froze. Embossed letters read, "Martha Reed and Stephen Morgan cordially invite." She blinked several times. Martha, the bride-to-be of Stephen, her ex-husband's brother. The same woman who had insulted her repeatedly, calling her money-hungry, a stain on the Morgan family, and a failed mother. Lucy was about to toss the invitation into the trash. But Leo's curious eyes made her pick it up and open it. Embossed, red velvet lining. Beneath her name, in italic faux handwriting, it read, "Children may attend if they know how to behave." Lucy stood still. Each word stabbed at the last remnants of pride she held on to. She read it again, hoping she had misunderstood. But no, it was a trap wrapped in gold foil. "What is that, Mom?" Leo looked up. It's Martha and Uncle Stephen's wedding invitation." "Can we go, Mom? I want to see Grandpa too," Leo said excitedly. Lucy stayed silent. Grandpa Anthony Morgan had never even held Leo once. The family had accused Lucy of having the baby just to trap a marriage, and when Stephen married Martha, it was as if they dumped the past in the trash. But Leo still believed, still hoped for a kind of love that had never existed. She closed her eyes. Martha's mocking words from the past rang in her ears. "A woman like you has children just to burden society. If you don't know how to raise a child, don't blame others for looking down on you." Lucy put the invitation in a drawer. But that night, she tossed and turned, not because of the invitation, but because of Leo's eyes. He was too pure, too loving toward people who had never loved him. The next morning, as she brought coffee to her regular customer, Mr. Julian, an elderly doctor who lived alone, he looked at her closely. "Something wrong, Lucy?" She shook her head. "Nothing, Dr. Julian." "Don't lie to someone who's done over 5,000 heart surgeries," he chuckled, then gestured to the chair. "Sit down. Just a minute." Lucy sat and briefly told him about the invitation. He paused. "You know why they invited you, don't you? Because they want you there to use you as contrast to their perfect picture." Lucy sighed. "I know. But Leo, he's excited." "Then go," he said. "Go, but go for your son. Not for them. And don't let anyone teach Leo that bowing your head is the only way to live." Lucy thanked him and went home. She opened the wardrobe and searched through her clothes. Her only black dress had faded. But she remembered Clara, a neighbor who had once said, "If you ever need anything for Leo or yourself, just ask." That evening, Clara knocked on the door holding a wine-colored dress. "I wore it to my niece's wedding. I've gained weight since. It should fit you now." Lucy hugged her tightly, tearful. "I don't know how to thank you." Clara waved it off. "Just remember, there's nothing about you to be ashamed of." The wedding day arrived. Lucy wore the freshly ironed dress from Clara. Her old flats were a little worn at the heels. Leo wore a slightly tight suit that Mrs. Rose had given them, but he was thrilled. "You look so handsome," Lucy smiled, snapping a selfie with him. "You look beautiful too, Mom. Like a princess." When they arrived at the Crown Madison Hotel, an entirely different world unfolded before them. Luxury cars lined up outside, staff in black and white uniforms, guests gliding across a red carpet, gowns as dazzling as a fashion show. Lucy gripped Leo's hand tighter. She knew this wasn't a place made for her. But she also knew her son had every right to be present just like any other child. The moment they stepped into the grand hall, the first gaze that landed on them was Martha's. In a crystal-studded wedding dress hugging her slim figure, with her hair in an elegant bun and lips painted a bold red, she walked over, a frozen smile on her face. "Oh, you came?" Martha said, her voice sweet as artificial sugar. "Didn't expect you to actually keep the invite." Lucy nodded. "Thank you for the invitation." "Oh, and you brought the boy too. That's nice. You saw the note in the card, right?" Martha glanced at Leo from head to toe. "Hope he doesn't cause a scene." Lucy was about to respond, but Leo jumped in, "I know how to behave. I won't spill anything." Martha gave a small laugh. "Good. You're adorable." But her eyes and the sideways glances from everyone else made it clear, they weren't welcome. The grand walnut doors opened to reveal a dazzling reception hall lit by crystal chandeliers. White orchids hung from the ceiling, velvet-covered tables, crystal glasses arranged perfectly. A violin played softly from the corner, a serene but cold symphony. Lucy held Leo's hand and walked carefully across the glossy floor. Her old shoes made odd noises, so she tried to walk more lightly. Around her, heads turned, some glances fleeting, others openly scrutinizing. A blonde woman wearing a pearl necklace whispered to her husband, "Who's that? Looks unfamiliar." He replied quietly, "Must be from the bride's side, dressed like the help." Lucy lowered her head, pulling Leo along. But Leo, innocent as ever, looked around with wonder. "Wow, Mom, there's a chocolate fountain. Can I have some?" "We'll wait a bit, okay?" Lucy said, scanning the room for their table. A server approached, holding a list. "Excuse me, ma'am, may I have your name?" "Lucy Bennett." "I received an invitation from the bride," she answered politely. He checked the list and nodded. "Yes, table 12, near the exit. Please follow me." Lucy and Leo made their way past elegant tables. Laughter, clinking glasses, expensive perfume filled the air. She spotted some familiar faces, her ex-husband's cousin, Emma from college, even Leo's former teacher, Mr. Stephen. But no one called her name. No one greeted her. They looked, then looked away, as if her presence might contaminate them. At table 12, Lucy stopped in her tracks. There was a handwritten card in red ink. "Lucy Bennett, individual guest, 1 adult, 1 child." And below that, in smaller italics, "Please do not take wedding cake before the official cutting." Another card, placed beside Leo's plate, read, "Only bottled water served for children." Lucy clenched her purse strap. Leo looked up, confused. "Why don't I get orange juice, Mom?" "They probably forgot," she replied, forcing a smile. "Take a seat, sweetie." No sooner had they sat down than a voice called from behind. "Lucy." I didn't think you'd really come. Martha appeared again, followed by a group of girlfriends, all dressed glamorously with fake smiles painted on. Lucy stood, polite. Congratulations to you and Stephen. The wedding is beautiful. Thank you, Martha tilted her head. That dress, interesting choice. Wine red. Very bold. A dark-haired friend giggled quietly. Lucy said nothing. Martha continued, voice tinged with mockery, oh, and you came just in time. The catering team is short-staffed and I've been scrambling with the dessert menu. I wonder if you could help a bit. Just a few trays of pastries. Lucy frowned. Are you joking? Martha chuckled and turned to her friends. Wow, Lucy still gets touchy, huh? I just thought, someone who's had a tough life like you probably wouldn't mind lending a hand. Just for fun, right? A tall man from Stephen's group, Charles, his close friend, added, well, it makes sense. She's used to serving people anyway. The whole group burst into laughter. Leo looked at his mother, confused. Mom. I don't understand. What are they saying? Lucy swallowed hard and gripped his hand tightly. Nothing, honey. Let's just eat. But Martha wouldn't stop. If you don't want to help, that's fine. I just thought, every guest should contribute, don't you think? Oh, and don't forget kids should only run around if they're being watched. Then she turned away, her bouncy curls swaying behind her, leaving a bitter taste in the air. The meal began. Plates were served, bluefin tuna salad, truffle mushroom soup, French-style roast beef. But when it came to Lucy's table, the server placed only 2 tiny portions of plain salad and a bowl of instant noodles for children. Excuse me, Lucy called out. I thought the main course was. Yes, according to the table request, you were marked for the vegetarian option, the server said blankly. And children don't get beef. I'm just following orders. Leo stared at the noodles, quietly eating small spoonfuls. Lucy turned away so her son wouldn't see her eyes welling up. She looked around, guests whispering and pointing at their table. A middle-aged woman, Sophia, Martha's aunt, sighed and said to the person beside her, poor boy. Doesn't even know who his father is. The other person laughed. Maybe his dad's here, just too scared to admit it. Lucy stood up and pulled out Leo's chair. Let's go outside for a bit, okay? Get some fresh air. But I haven't finished eating. We can have bread at home. Remember the loaf from yesterday? Leo nodded and obediently followed her. But just as they were about to leave, a young server rushed over, nervous. Sorry. Miss Martha asked me to tell you. Miss Lucy should help carry some dessert trays to the back. The kitchen's short-staffed. Lucy stared in disbelief. I'm a guest. I know, but she said you used to work in restaurants, so you have experience. Lucy tightened her grip on her son's hand. Just then, another guest approached, Anthony Morgan, her former father-in-law. He looked at Lucy like she was air, then said to the server. If she doesn't want to help, ask security to escort them out. This party doesn't need extra baggage. It felt like a slap to Lucy's face. Leo whispered, Mom, what did Grandpa say? Lucy knelt down to look him in the eye. It's okay. I'm okay. But she knew clearly what had just happened left a crack in Leo's heart. The first crack, and it wouldn't be the last. Lucy stood frozen for a moment. It felt like she had just been doused with cold water in the middle of a crowd full of laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses. Anthony's words echoed in her mind. This party doesn't need extra baggage. Leo looked at her, confused in a way he had never looked before. The young server, his name tag read Evan, mumbled, I'm sorry. I was just doing what Miss Martha told me. I didn't know. Lucy clenched her bag strap, biting her lip to hold back tears. But then, the unthinkable happened. The microphone crackled. Martha's voice rang out, sweet like syrup but heavy with implication. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a minor hiccup with the catering staff today. But luckily, a dear old family friend Miss Lucy has graciously offered to help us clear tables and serve drinks. She has experience, doesn't she, everyone? The guests began to murmur. A few laughs broke out from nearby tables. Some even clapped not out of admiration, but because they thought this was part of the entertainment at this extravagant wedding. Lucy stood paralyzed. Martha had just publicly turned her into a joke in front of hundreds of people. Leo tugged on her sleeve. "Mom, let's go home." Lucy lifted her gaze and it met Stephen's, her ex-husband. He stood next to Martha, his face unreadable, holding a glass of red wine. Not for a second did he say a word. Martha stepped closer, smiling brightly, and whispered near Lucy's ear. "You have two choices, either do a few rounds with the trays to stop being such a nuisance, or step outside. I'll have security escort you. Right in front of your son." Lucy looked at Leo. He was glancing around, nervous. She nodded, lips pressed tight. "Give me the tray." Evan rushed off to get it. Martha clapped. "That's the spirit. A woman who knows her place. Thank you, Miss Lucy. The entire ballroom thanks you." Lucy took the tray of crystal glasses, her hands trembling. Leo followed closely behind her like a tiny shadow. "I'll come with you," he whispered. "I'll help." "No. Sit quietly in the corner," she said. "No. I don't want you to be alone." Leo shouted, almost in tears. A nearby guest, Dorothy, Leo's grandmother's friend, giggled to someone at her table, just like her mother. Low class and doesn't know how to raise her kid. Lucy turned away, holding the tray, walking toward the inner rows of tables. She passed judgmental stares, hushed whispers, and hidden phones recording her every move. Her back stayed straight, but her heart was bleeding. As Lucy moved from table to table, Martha laughed and chatted with guests like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Leo quietly picked up napkins that had fallen under tables, straightened the glasses his mother had set down slightly crooked. He was only 6 years old, but his small hands were already used to helping like a grown-up. All he wanted was to help his mom. Suddenly, a voice rang out across the ballroom. "Benjamin, a former pharmaceutical executive. Could I get a little more wine, waitress?" "Miss Lucy, where's your tray?" Laughter exploded across the room. Martha laughed so hard she clutched her stomach. "Oh, Benjamin, you're hilarious." Lucy lowered her head, bringing the tray of wine over. Her hand shook so badly that one glass tipped, spilling red wine onto the floor. She knelt quickly to clean it. Leo ran over and helped her with a napkin, his eyes watery. "Mom, let me." But Martha stepped in, narrowing her eyes. "What's this? Is the kid helping now too? Whole family in the service industry?" Another wave of laughter followed. Martha kept going, "Too bad we're not handing out paychecks today. But hey, everyone, if you're satisfied with Miss Lucy's premium service, feel free to tip her." A man clapped loudly, pulled $5 from his wallet and stuffed it into Leo's hand. "Great job, kid." Leo froze, not understanding. He looked at his mother, then at the bill, then at the laughing crowd. He began to sense something was wrong, even if he didn't yet have the words for it. Lucy froze. She was about to return the money, but Martha cut her off. "Keep it. It's a reward. Not every day you get to serve at a wedding like this." The server, Evan, stood frozen nearby, about to step in, but the cold glare of Mr. Samuel, the stern wedding manager, made him stop. Lucy bowed her head and pulled Leo back with her. She squeezed his little hand tightly. But it wasn't over yet. A group of young guests, Stephen's old friends, called out, "Lucy, come take a photo with us. We're calling it, Successful Single Mom in Catering." One of them had already been recording with a phone. Lucy turned her back and was about to leave when Martha called out, "Wait. You didn't clean table 6. It's still messy." Leo tugged on his mother's hand. "Mom, let's go home. I'm hungry. I don't want to stay anymore." Lucy bit her lip. But just as she turned toward table 6, Carol Stevens' mother approached, elegantly dressed, holding a champagne flute. "Lucy," she said, her voice icy. "What are you doing here?" Lucy looked up, pain in her eyes. "I received an invitation. No one wanted you to come." "That invitation Martha sent it as a final courtesy," Carol continued. "Don't you get it? You and that child don't belong here. Our family doesn't need this kind of disgrace." Lucy whispered, "I came here for my son. He wanted to see his grandparents again." Carol looked at Leo with contempt. "He has no father. No paternal family. Don't invent a family that doesn't exist." Leo heard everything. He turned to his mother and stammered, "But I have a grandpa, don't I?" Lucy hugged him tightly and whispered, "Of course you do. He just doesn't know how to love." Martha interjected, beaming, "Time to cut the cake. Lucy, could you help hold the dessert plates? You're the star this time." Lucy didn't answer. She turned to Leo and whispered, "I'm sorry." Leo nodded slightly. No more smiles, no more joy. He just gripped her hand tightly and whispered, "Mom, I hate this place." Lucy led Leo around to the back of the main stage, where the catering staff were quietly moving about. The smell of food mixed with floor cleaner lingered in the air. The lighting dimmed backstage, a world entirely opposite from the glittering scene outside. Leo mumbled, "Mom, can we not come back ever again? I don't want to see any of them again." Lucy knelt down and wiped a stain off his shirt. "I know, Leo. I don't want to either. But you saw it, they won't leave us alone." A staff member named James passed by and hesitated. "Miss Lucy, what's happened today is too much." Lucy gave a faint nod. "Thanks, but it's okay. I can take it." James looked at Leo, his voice low. "The boys shouldn't be caught up in this." Lucy gripped her son's hand. "I know. But it wasn't my choice." A chime rang the signal for the wedding cake ceremony to begin. From the speakers, the MC Valerie's voice rang out clearly. "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your tables and get ready to celebrate this special moment." A big round of applause for the happy couple, Martha and Stephen. Applause filled the hall. Lucy knew if she stayed here any longer, they'd call her name again, drag her back in front of everyone. She took a deep breath. "Let's go back, sweetheart. We'll stand in a corner, then leave soon." Leo nodded, eyes full of sadness. They walked toward the stage. The massive three-tiered cake was wheeled into the center, surrounded by white flowers and scented candles. Martha and Stephen stepped onto the platform hand in hand, smiling brightly. Martha looked around theatrically, then feigned surprise. "Oh, Lucy. Perfect timing. Could you help hold the napkins and plates for the staff? Their hands are full." Before Lucy could respond, Valerie the MC cheerfully added, "Yes, everyone, we have a special treat. Miss Lucy, a very dear family friend, will be assisting in the cake-cutting ceremony." Light laughter rippled through the room. A few guests raised their phones to record. Lucy's hands trembled as she took a napkin from a staff member. Leo stood beside her, visibly upset. "Mom, why do they keep making you do this?" Lucy whispered, "Just stay close to me. I'm okay." As Martha and Stephen cut into the first layer of cake, a collective gasp came from the crowd. The filling was a dark strawberry red, almost like blood dripping down. While Valerie droned on about lasting love, the sweetness of strawberries, and the meaning of 3 tiers, Lucy stepped back a few paces to avoid blocking the view. Just then, Leo, trying to help, noticed a glass slipping off a tray near the main table. He ran over and knelt to pick it up. But the floor was slick, some spilled wine from earlier hadn't been wiped up. Leo slipped. "Leo!" Lucy cried out. Crash! Leo fell hard, his small hand slamming onto the tile. The glass flew from his hand and struck Martha's wedding gown. A splash of red wine spread down her dress, staining the white lace from hip to hem. The entire hall went silent for a half-second and then chaos erupted. "Who let that kid run around like that?" a woman shouted. "Oh my God, her wedding dress is ruined. Whose kid is that? So uncivilized." Martha stood frozen for a moment, then screamed. "You brat! Are you trying to ruin my wedding, Lucy?" Lucy rushed forward and lifted Leo off the ground. He clung to her, crying. I just wanted to pick up the glass." Stephen pulled out a napkin to offer Martha, but she slapped it away. "Don't touch me. That dress cost $2,000. And trash like that dares to touch it?" Lucy shielded Leo, trembling. "I'm sorry, he didn't mean to." Martha ground her teeth and turned to her mother-in-law, Carol. I told you not to invite people like her. Now what? Dress ruined, party ruined, pictures ruined." Carol stepped forward and stared directly at Leo. Her eyes were cold and cutting. "A child without a father ends up just like this." Lucy stepped between them. "I won't let you insult my son." "Oh. Who's insulting?" "I'm stating facts. A boy with no father, raised by a woman who clung to our family for survival. What else could he become but a walking disaster?" "Enough!" Lucy shouted, clutching Leo. But Carol's voice cut louder. "If you don't leave now, I'll call security. This wedding is not your stage for personal tragedy." All around, no one spoke up. Emma, Lucy's old friend, looked down. Leo's former teacher, Mrs. Teresa, backed away. Even Evan, the server, just watched helplessly. Leo buried his face in his mother's shoulder, sobbing. "Mom. I'm sorry. I ruined everything." Lucy whispered through her own tears, "No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. I was wrong to bring you here." Martha waved a hand. "Samuel. Where's security? Get them out of here now." Samuel, the wedding manager, approached, hesitant. "Can't we let them sit quietly until the photo session ends? It's almost over." Martha glared. "No. I won't have parasites hanging around to ruin even the final pictures." Lucy lifted Leo into her arms. "We'll leave." But Martha grabbed her arm, sneering. "Leaving? You haven't finished your duties. Who's going to clean up the wine spill? Who's going to serve cake to the VIP tables?" Lucy shook. "I'm not a server." Martha laughed. "But you play the role so well, don't you?" Another round of laughter burst out. Lucy wanted to scream. To smash the whole room. But she had two choices: struggle and be dragged out in shame, or endure just a few minutes more. Leo hiccuped through his tears. "Mom. I'm tired. I want to go home." Lucy nodded. "I know. I'll take you home." But Martha raised her hand and pointed toward the stage. "I said when the floor is cleaned and the cake is delivered, then you can go." Lucy stood frozen. Her eyes welled with tears, but she refused to let any fall. Around her, guests began raising their phones to record, some even secretly snapping photos. An elderly man sitting in the corner, Mr. Henry, a close friend of Lucy's former father-in-law, muttered, "This is going too far." But no one intervened. Not a single soul. Lucy stood in the middle of the chaos, holding Leo, who had collapsed on her shoulder, his body shaking from cold and exhaustion. The whispers, the laughter, the pointed stares they were knives slicing through her skin. And yet, no one in that crowd knew. The real humiliation hadn't even started. Martha stood at the center of the banquet hall, adjusting the microphone in her hand with the smug poise of a queen about to pronounce a death sentence. Her voice rang out soft, but slicing through the air like a blade. Before we move on to the photo session with the wedding cake, we have a little surprise. A special presentation from our distinguished guest, Miss Lucy Bennett. Lucy raised her head, hands gripping her son's shoulders. Valerie, the MC, picked up with an exaggeratedly cheerful tone. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Lucy, who was once very close to the groom's family, would like to share a heartfelt blessing for the bride and groom. Let's welcome Miss Lucy to the stage. Applause spread through the hall, but it wasn't joyful. It sounded more like a drum roll for a public execution. Heads turned toward Lucy, but no one reached out to help. No one spoke up to release her from it. They were all just waiting for the entertainment. Lucy didn't move. Leo clung to her hand. Mom, don't go up there, let's just go. Valerie approached with a strained smile. Come on now, no one can say no to offering a blessing for a marriage, right? Lucy quietly loosened Leo's grip on her skirt, leaned down and whispered, just wait for me a few minutes. I'll be right back. Leo stared at her, unblinking. A gaze full of worry and mounting disappointment. Lucy walked toward the stage, each step feeling like the final stretch of a long, humiliating road. The crowd no longer resembled familiar faces, just cold, stony silhouettes. A microphone was placed in her hand. Martha leaned in, smiling, and whispered. Make sure you read it word for word. I wrote it for you just to keep you from improvising some cheap tragic monologue. Lucy looked down at the small note Martha shoved into her hand. Scrawled in a careless hand, it read. Wishing Martha and Stephen eternal happiness more than my short-lived marriage. I'm happy for them because they truly deserve each other. Unlike me, who was just a mistake. Lucy looked up and stared Martha straight in the eyes. You want me to read this in front of my son? Martha tilted her head. What did you think you came here for, if not to pay? Valerie gave a signal to the tech booth, and the microphone turned on. Lucy stood there beneath the spotlight, body trembling, hand crumpling the note like it was poison. Whispers echoed around her. Poor thing. At least she knows her place. She thought marrying into the Morgans made her someone. Lucy searched the crowd for Leo. He stood at the edge of the stage, eyes dim, hands clenched. He didn't look away. And for the first time, Lucy realized his gaze no longer held the blind admiration it once did. It was now filled with pain and confusion. Why is my mom letting them do this to her? Lucy turned back to the microphone. The whispers stopped. Her voice was soft, but clear. Hello everyone. I used to love someone in this family very deeply. I once believed that if I was kind, worked hard, and loved sincerely, I'd be accepted. The room fell quiet. A few phones went up to record. I used to think, she continued, eyes still on Leo, that if I stayed silent, if I endured everything, that one day I'd be treated like family. But I was wrong. She paused. Martha frowned and stepped forward. I told you to read what's on the card. Lucy brushed Martha's hand away, keeping her voice steady. Because I was poor, they called me a parasite. Because I raised my child alone, I was looked down on. Because I didn't wear designer clothes, I was treated as disgraceful. But today, those are the very things that make me proud. The banquet hall went completely silent. Carol stood up and yelled. Get her off that stage. Where's security? Martha grabbed the mic, trying to smile. Please don't misunderstand. This is just a personal outburst, not part of the program. Lucy turned and began to walk off the stage. But in that moment, Leo ran up and grabbed her hand. He whispered, don't say any more. You're crying. Lucy wiped her tears. I'm okay. I just wanted you to know. I tried. Leo held her hand tightly, repeating, let's go home, Mom. I don't need cake. I don't need blessings. I just need you. From the guest seats, a few slow claps began. Then a voice, Mr. Henry, an older guest, spoke up. She's right. No one deserves to be humiliated like this. Is this a wedding or a public shaming? A young woman nearby called out too, I recorded everything. If you think you can erase her past, it's too late. Martha froze. Stephen tugged her arm. You've gone too far. She snapped, I did it to protect your family's reputation. Stephen growled, you're protecting your ego, not my family. Lucy carried Leo down from the stage, heading straight for the exit without looking back. The crystal chandeliers still sparkled, the violin music resumed, but no one in the room laughed as freely as before. Lucy held Leo's hand tightly as they left the ballroom. Outside, the New York night air was crisp. The wind blew scattered flyers across the stone pavement. Leo stayed quiet, eyes wet, not saying a word. Lucy bent down, kneeling in front of him, and hugged him tight. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought you there. Leo buried his head in her shoulder, voice breaking. I don't understand why they hate you. You didn't do anything wrong. Lucy didn't know how to answer. Her tears spilled, bitter as ever. A small hand wiped her cheek, followed by Leo's soft sigh, they're like in the movies, mean like the witch. His innocent words sent a chill down her spine. In his eyes, the world was still divided into good and evil. He was too young to understand that some people wear fancy clothes, smile sweetly and still rot inside. They stopped at a bench in a small park near the hotel. Lucy sat down, and Leo leaned against her, eyelids drooping from exhaustion. In the quiet, memories flooded back like a rushing tide. 10 years ago. Lucy was a senior majoring in languages at NYU. Back then, she was a dreamy girl living in a dorm, working part-time at a coffee shop near campus. Louis Morgan, her ex-husband, was then an economics student from a wealthy family. He drove a BMW and dressed impeccably. They first met when he walked into the cafe and said, I'll take an espresso, no sugar, but I'd love to have your smile on the side. Lucy laughed, thinking it was just a cheesy pickup line. But Louis came back every day, each time with a new joke. Slowly, he won her over. They started dating in secret. Lucy never thought of herself as less than. She was smart, fluent in French and Italian, a scholarship winner. But the first time Louis took her home to a mansion in Greenwich, things began to change. Carol, his mother, looked Lucy up and down with barely concealed disgust. And you are? A language major, Lucy replied politely. A language major? What will you do, tutor? Translate for tourists. Lucy blushed but smiled anyway. It got worse when Carol found out Lucy's mother was a housekeeper and her father had passed from cancer. A family with no roots and no security for the future. Louis, what are you thinking? Carol snapped. Louis, still young and reckless, just grinned. I love her. That's all. Lucy had never felt so small. But love made her blind. She thought if they were sincere enough, every wall would fall. And then, Lucy got pregnant. She told Louis the news in a small diner in East Village, on a September afternoon. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he asked, Are we keeping it? I can't terminate, she said, her eyes firm. Louis swallowed hard. Then, we'll get married. Lucy couldn't believe what she was hearing. She hugged him, crying with joy. But the wedding never happened. Louis's family strongly opposed it. Carol called an emergency family meeting with the Morgans, and even sent Louis to Italy for 3 months under the pretext of an international internship. Lucy stayed behind, alone, her belly growing larger each day. She tried to reach him, but Louis rarely responded. In the 6th month, she received a short text message. "I'm sorry. I can't go against my family." Lucy collapsed to the floor, in so much pain she nearly went into preterm labor. From that moment on, she cut all contact and refused any financial support from them. Leo was born in the cramped maternity ward of City General Hospital. She named him after his father who never dared claim him. Carol had called her only once after hearing the news. "Stay away from us. That child is not part of my family." Lucy began her journey as a single mother at 22. While finishing her final credits, she worked every job she could: dishwashing in restaurants, freelance interpreting, data entry at night. There were days she had to let Leo sleep in a cardboard box beside her workstation because she had no one to watch him. She was fired several times for being late. One restaurant let her go after she called in when Leo had a high fever. The manager snapped, "If you can't separate your job from your personal life, don't bother showing up." Lucy never forgot those words. She once visited a social services office to ask for assistance. A staff member asked, "Has the baby's father provided any support?" "No. He left," Lucy replied. "Then you could sue." "I don't want their money. I just want to raise my son in peace." The worker scoffed. "Don't romanticize it. They have money. You don't. Who do you think this society sides with?" Lucy walked out without taking a dime. The first 3 years raising Leo were hell. There were times she almost dropped out of school, only to return. Times when the electricity was cut off because she hadn't paid the bill. Times when she only had a stale loaf of bread and gave it all to her son. Everywhere she went, she heard whispers that cut like knives. "She's so young and already has a kid. She probably hooked up with some guy who bailed. Clearly after money." Martha, Stephen's girlfriend at the time Louis's older brother, once saw Lucy at a pharmacy. Martha smirked and said, "You had that baby to trap them, didn't you? That's pathetic." Lucy didn't respond. But those words left a scar that never faded. Back to the present, Lucy looked down at Leo, now asleep on her lap. His face was stained with dried tears, his breathing calm and steady. She gently stroked his hair and whispered, "I don't regret having you. No matter how cruel this world is, I would choose to be your mother all over again." A familiar voice called from behind. "Lucy." She turned. It was James, the young server from the wedding, standing shyly by a tree. What are you doing here?" "I came to find you. I couldn't sit with how that all went down. And I'm sorry." Lucy shook her head. "You don't owe me anything." "No," James interrupted. "I've seen enough. What they did was disgusting, and you didn't deserve any of it." He hesitated, then pulled out his phone. "Someone recorded the part where Martha forced you to speak, and the moment your son was humiliated. It's already spreading on social media. I thought, you should know." Lucy's eyes widened. James looked down. "I hope it changes something." Lucy sat quietly on the park bench, staring at the night sky as darkness slowly swallowed the last light of day. The sun had long since set, leaving streaks of pink and purple clouds reflected across the dark horizon. Leo still slept on her lap, his tiny arms wrapped tightly around her like he was holding on to the only safe place in a chaotic world. Her lips pressed together. From the moment they left the hotel, without a single word of comfort from anyone, she knew things had changed forever. But she didn't expect it to happen this quickly, so fast she hadn't been able to prepare. She remembered that moment on stage, when Martha handed her the microphone. The words Martha had forced into her hand weren't hers. Every syllable was a blow to her dignity. But what hurt most wasn't Martha's humiliation or Carol's cruelty. It was Leo's eyes. Her little boy didn't look at her the same way anymore. His gaze no longer brimmed with admiration. Instead, it was filled with pain, confusion. That unspoken question, why did you let them treat you like that, Mom? Lucy leaned down and kissed Leo's hair. She whispered, I'm sorry, baby. I just wanted you to live in a better world. A world untouched by the ugliness of people like them. Leo stirred slightly, startling her. He opened his eyes and looked up at her. I don't want you to do that again, Leo said softly, his voice catching. Lucy stared at him. I know, sweetheart. But sometimes we have to stand up, even when it's hard. Leo sat up, his eyes still on her, but this time, they weren't the innocent eyes of a child. They were eyes that had seen injustice. Eyes that had watched his beloved mother be publicly shamed. Mom, Leo said, voice trembling. You always tell me you're a hero. But why did you let them do that to you? Lucy turned away, tears falling again. The pain didn't come from Martha, or Carol, or the guests. It came from this question. From her own child, the one she loved most. I'm not always a hero, Leo, Lucy said, her voice shaking. I'm just a regular woman. Sometimes I'm strong, sometimes I make mistakes. I try to do my best, but sometimes I lose my way. Leo looked at her, surprised. He didn't know how hard she had fought. He didn't know what it had cost her to raise him. The sleepless nights. The rejections. The insults she never answered. I don't understand, Leo said, tears welling. You're the best person I know, why did you let them do that to you? Lucy squeezed his hand, pulling him close. I don't want you to understand. I just want you to know you were never the one who was wrong. The people who hurt us, who hurt you, they're the ones who are wrong. He buried his head into her shoulder. I don't want you to cry anymore. Lucy choked back a sob. She didn't want him to see her as weak. Didn't want him to witness his once heroic mother broken and unable to fight back. But he had already seen. And in that moment, Lucy realized she could never make Leo love her forever if she kept letting her wounds drown out the love in his eyes. She couldn't live based on what others said or thought. She had to live for herself, for her son, for what she believed in. I won't let them hurt you again, she whispered, holding Leo tighter. A few minutes later, Lucy stood up, taking Leo's hand and walking toward the bus stop. The road back from the hotel wouldn't be easy. The judgment still lingered. The cruel words still echoed. But she knew nothing was more valuable than her child's love. The two of them walked beneath flickering streetlights. A bus pulled up, opening its doors, welcoming them and carrying them forward, into a new hope. Mom, when will we go home? Leo asked, his voice softer now. Mommy and you are going home, Leo. We'll have a place where no one can hurt us anymore. Lucy turned to look at Leo and smiled. There were no more tears of humiliation, no more fury swelling in her chest. She had her son, and her son had her. The two of them would walk forward together. No one could drag them down anymore, no one could block their path. Since leaving the hotel, Lucy and Leo hadn't spoken another word. They quietly walked through the empty streets, under the faint glow of streetlights, wrapped in the silence of the late-night city. Everything felt shattered inside Lucy, but Leo was like a guiding light, even though he was only 6. In that moment, all Lucy could hope for was change. Even though the pain couldn't be erased, one thing inside her refused to die, her love for Leo, and her hope for a new life. A place where no one could bully or hurt her son again. They returned to their small apartment, the place that belonged to just them, to Leo's old drawings, and their simple bed. Lucy laid him down and tucked him in. But as she stepped away, her phone rang. She looked at the screen, and her heart clenched. It was a video. A video from the wedding. She played it. It showed her standing on the stage, holding the microphone, delivering the forced blessing. She saw the pain in Leo's eyes, heard the helplessness in her own voice. The next clip showed Leo slipping and spilling wine on Martha's wedding dress. The scene played out again and a wave of rage surged through her. But then, something miraculous happened. Leo's voice came on in the video. The little boy, unafraid, grabbed the microphone Martha had tried to snatch back before they left. "Miss Martha is a bad person. She made my mom serve tables, serve guests, and didn't let me eat even though she was the one who sent the invitation. I might not have a dad, but I still have a mom. My mom is prettier than you, better than you, and she never lies to hurt others." Lucy couldn't believe her eyes. That video quickly went viral across social media, under the hashtag "Son of a Brave Mother." The entire hall had gone silent. The very people who had mocked her, who had belittled her son, now had nothing to say. They never imagined that a child Leo would be the one to speak up for his mother, to demand justice for both of them and for all those who had been disrespected. In a single night, the video reached millions of views. The media picked it up. 6-year-old exposes the truth behind a lavish wedding. The story of Leo and his mother, clear eyes, clear truth. Television shows began contacting Lucy, asking for interviews. "Miss Lucy, can you share how you feel after your son's video went viral?" one reporter asked. Lucy looked over at her sleeping son, and emotion welled up in her chest. "I don't know what to say. My son taught me something important: silence isn't always the right choice. Speaking up is how we earn respect. And my son did that." The next day, Lucy received a call from a community center where she had once looked for work. A stable opportunity. An office job with a good salary. The days of living paycheck to paycheck might finally be over. It was thanks to Leo's courage. She knew that her son had opened a new door not just for her, but for himself too. He was no longer just a dreamy child, no longer just a boy without a father. He had become a symbol of bravery, a voice for children and for the mothers who fight every day to protect them. But in the darkness of night, Lucy still couldn't forget the looks from the wedding. She still remembered the words from Martha, from Carol. They never thought that one day, the people they considered beneath them would rise and fight back. "You did so well," Lucy told Leo when he woke up. "You were braver than anyone in that room." Leo looked up at his mom, his eyes still a little innocent, but full of pride. "Mom, I don't get why they hated you." Lucy sat beside him, gently stroking his hair. "I can't explain it all to you, sweetheart, but you need to know some people are like that. They don't understand love or sacrifice. But you must believe we'll never let anyone hurt us again." Leo nodded. He didn't fully understand, but he could feel the strength in his mother's words. That feeling of trust and love that was the greatest force in his life. "So where are we going, Mom?" Leo asked, his eyes lighting up. "We're going to a place where no one can hurt us," Lucy smiled, holding his hand. "To our home. A place with no judgment, only love." Lucy sat in front of her computer, watching the view count on Leo's video skyrocket. Everything was happening so fast. Calls from TV stations and news outlets flooded in, asking her to appear. She had never imagined that a 6-year-old could become such a powerful symbol. Her eyes filled with tears, but these were tears of release. Of freedom. For her son. For herself. They were no longer forgotten. No longer shamed in the shadows. "We did it, Leo," she whispered, gently patting her son's hand. "You taught me so much." Leo looked up, his eyes still bright, now steady with quiet determination. He no longer saw his mother with blind worship. He had seen her suffer, and then rise. He had seen her protect him. And now, he was seeing a fairer world where his mom no longer had to bow her head. The video kept spreading. Leo became a symbol of courage, a role model for other kids. Mothers and struggling families found strength through their story. They wrote to Lucy, thanking her for showing them hope, for restoring their belief in justice. Those who had hurt them had to face consequences. Martha was no longer smiling. The press hounded her, criticizing her for forcing Lucy into a public performance. Carol, the woman who had always looked down on Lucy, no longer held her proud composure. Even members of the Morgan family began turning away from her. No one wanted to stand beside that arrogance and cruelty anymore. The scandal reached higher levels. Media outlets and advocacy organizations for women and children spoke out. "We cannot let a child be treated this way," said one nonprofit representative on national television. Leo did what many adults didn't have the courage to do. Louis, Lucy's ex-husband, finally couldn't hide. He lost contact with his family. His company severed ties. Government agencies began investigating how he had evaded his responsibilities, abandoning both Lucy and Leo for years. Lucy no longer had to live in hiding. She was no longer a victim. No longer someone who had to bow her head. One early summer day, she took Leo's hand and stepped outside into the golden sunlight. They stood beneath the bright sky, no longer forced to lower their gaze. "You did amazing," Lucy said, eyes glistening. Leo looked up at her, his eyes filled with unwavering faith. "Mom, can we live like this forever?" "We always will, my love," Lucy said. "No one can hurt us anymore." They walked down the path, hand in hand, under the cool shade of green trees. No one could stop them now. The lesson in their story is that courage and unconditional love can carry us through the hardest of trials. In the face of injustice, silence is not always the answer. Sometimes, standing up and speaking out is the only way to reclaim dignity and rights. The story also emphasizes the power of family, of mutual support, and of never allowing anyone to strip us of our worth. The love and strength shared between Lucy and Leo are proof of the enduring power of belief in justice.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.